which statement is logically equivalent to this statement? So we're given this compound statement, and either A, B, C, or D below, one of those is equivalent to that. So we want to find out which one it is. Now remember, two statements are logically equivalent if they have the same variables with exactly the same truth values. We've talked about this before. So I suppose the best strategy here would be to very carefully just go row by row and do a truth table for the original statement, and then for each of A, B, C, and D, and keep going row by row until you have only one possibility left. Remember, they've got to match, so if you get one that doesn't match, it's eliminated. I think that's probably the strategy that I would follow. So if we're going to do that, the first thing we're going to do is begin with the original statement. And let's just do the first row, which will be the row with both trues for P and Q. And if I plug in true for P and true for Q, I would get the statement there. And remember, not true is false. So really I have false ANDed with true, and that result is ORed with not true, which again is false. And for an AND, it's only true if they're both true, so this is false. So I end up ORing a false with a false, which of course is false. So when it's all said and done, this statement is false when both P and Q are true. So then I would move to A and see what happens with A. So if I copy down the statement in A and let P be true and Q be true, I would get the statement not true or not true. And again, we know that not true is false, so I end up ORing a false with a false, which is false. So those things match. So A could be the logically equivalent statement to the original statement. We don't know that for sure because there are 3 more rows that have to match, but it could be. So let's move to B and do the same thing. If I put a true in for P, a true in for Q, then I get this statement, and I know not true is false in both those cases, so I end up with a false ORed with a true, and that result ANDed with a false. A false ORed with a true, remember, OR is only false if they're both false, so that'd be true, so I'd be ANDing a true with a false, and an AND is only true if they're both true. So that result in the end comes out false. So again, it matches the truth value above, so it could still be the logically equivalent statement. So far we haven't eliminated anything, we just keep going. So try C. Again, I'm just plugging in T's for P's and Q's, and then of course the not trues become falses. So I have false ORed with false, and then that result is ANDed with true. False or false is false, so I'm ANDing a false and a true, and an AND is only true if they're both true, so that result is false. So again, I've matched it. So I've done 3 out of the 4 and I haven't eliminated anybody. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Go to the 4th one. D, again, if I'm putting in a true for P and a true for Q, I end up with not true here. So I'd be false, a false ANDed with a false, and that result ORed with a true. False and false is false, and if you OR a false with a true, remember an OR is only false, they're both false, you get a true. So finally I get one that didn't match. So D is out. D cannot be equivalent to the original statement. So I'm down to 3 possibilities now. So let's move to the next row of the truth table. So the first row was true, true. The next row would be P being true and Q being false. So now I would put in a true for P and a false for Q into that second row. When I do that, I get a not true here and a not false here, and of course a not true is false. So I end up having a false and false ORed, and not false is true. Well, of course, false and false, I'll just put it here, false and false is false, so I ended up having a false ORed with a true, and OR is only false, they're both false, so that results when all said and done is true. So now I don't have to deal with D anymore, but I need to go back and do this with A, B, and C. So I start with A, putting in true for P and false for Q. So that not false becomes a true, and that not false becomes a true. So I end up having a true ANDed with a true, ORed with a true. And remember, true and true is true, so then I've got a true and ORed with a true. They're all true, so the result there obviously will be true. And it matches, so I haven't eliminated A. A could still be the equivalent statement. Then I move to B, do the same thing. Put in a true for P and a false for Q. Well, when I do that, what happens? The not true becomes false, so I'm false ORed with a false, and then that's ANDed with a not false, which is true. Now, of course, false or false is false, so I have a false ANDed with a true, and an AND is only true if they're both true, so that result will be false. And again, that differs from the original statement, so that eliminates choice B. The answer now is either A or C. We've eliminated B and D. So if we're lucky now, C will get eliminated this time. So we move over and try. We put in a true for P and a false for Q. And not true, of course, becomes false. So I'm ORing a false with a not false, which is true. And that's being ANDed with a false. Now, false or true, OR is only false, they're both false, so that would be a true ANDed with a false, and an AND is only true if they're both true, so that would be false. And again, this value doesn't match the statement's original value for P being true and Q being false. So I've eliminated C. So it took a little bit of work, but I have eliminated now B, C, and D. So if I've been very careful and I'm confident that I didn't make any careless error along the way, then A has to be the logically equivalent statement to the original statement. But since it's so easy to make a mistake, I won't do it here, but it would not be a bad idea to go ahead and do the other two rows and just make sure that it comes out equivalent all the way. So you could go ahead and do the false true and the false false row for both the original statement and for A, and make sure they're the same all the way down, because it's just so easy to make a mistake. I won't do that here, because if I didn't make a mistake, A is certainly the answer. But when you're doing this for something that really matters to you, it'd be a good idea to go ahead and do the other two rows and make sure.